Hey everybody, today we want to unpack one of the most common, misconceptions about health that I think is just pervasive, and I'm going to work really hard today to not talk about that period in time. But it stems back to that. But even before that, for the last 15, 20 years, every year around wintertime or in this season, we start having the germ, bug, virus, flu, getting sick conversation. And it's not just us. Like across the street from my office is a Meijer grocery store. Yeah. And every year flu signs come out in the fall. And then there's this whole idea that we're going to potentially get sick from viral exposure. And one of the myths is that symptoms are, this thing that are telling us that we've been exposed and that something's attacking us, and that we get sick because of our exposure. And what's really interesting is from these viral exposure myths and isolation experiments, we've found out that symptoms are actually signs of the intelligence in our body, and that we want to break this idea and reframe the conversation as it pertains to illness, immunity, and really healing through a different lens. So if you've ever wondered why two people can be exposed to the same thing and only one gets sick,
come on, that's the question, right?
Today's episode, we want to answer that question. And to take it even one step, why would one recover quickly and one not? Or, any type or version of that. So today we really want to talk about whether, and it might make some people feel uncomfortable because, like I said, it's going to wreck some paradigms. That's our goal. Our goal is to actually maybe change some of the ways you think about things, especially if the way you've been taught is old school.
This is an episode that is going to, this will be cataloged and will be shared with people, shared with patients, shared with friends, shared with family members. And this is going to be really something, it's going to be a conversation that's just going to challenge how you view everything. Yep. And even those people that are like, oh, I'm crunchy, I'm holistic, I'm, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is a foundational conversation about the lens that you view everything from. And it's really one of those things of like how you view sickness, how you view symptoms, how you view your kids getting sick, how you view immunity, even how you view your own body. This is really all coiled up in this discussion is. And so I'm really, this isn't going to be one of those moments where we're going to walk through like, oh man, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I listened to the worst podcast ever. And it was so boring. And it was like listening to just like data after data after data points about like working out. And this isn't that at all today. What today really is going to be challenging a fundamental and a belief system that's been built up over years and years and years.
You're about to get a software update.
Yes.
You're about to get a software update on the idea and the way you think about your health. So I said this might make people uncomfortable, not because it's extreme, but because it challenges something that I think we've all been taught since childhood, this idea that germs are the enemy, that sickness is something that we catch, as if like somebody was throwing you a sickness football.
Yes.
That your body is under constant attack, that like germs are the predator and you're the prey. And what we're talking about isn't anti-science. It's actually deeper than science, that it's something that science is just learning about. But principally, if you observe nature, then this truth has always been there. It's actually older science, and honestly it comes with common sense once you actually see it. So just diving into this, the first thing we really want to talk about is why the germ theory even became a story. I say story, another word could be myth in the first place.
Right.
It didn't start because it explained everything perfectly. In fact, like most things, we were trying to find an explanation for something we were observing, and typically we're wrong multiple times before we get to the right answer. But it all started with trying to explain something. Germs were visible. What I mean by that is you can see microbes. This goes back to Pasteur and the wine and the tubes at the flask, where he was able to trap these little germs and bugs and bacteria in the flask. They were visible. Symptoms followed exposure sometimes. So people would get sick or express symptomatology after they had been exposed to germs. And then it created this like very clear, very clean villain. here's the germ, here's the sick person, here's the germ. Germ must have caused a sickness.
Yeah, and so okay, can we just can we give a little backstory here? And like, we're very into the germ theory of disease. Like, we're very into this entire notion that, okay, first things first, the germ theory of disease itself, when you say that sentence out loud, like, you do recognize, right, that it's a theory. Like, somebody came up with this idea, and I will be very honest, it took me a very long time to really understand, to really recognize that we're talking about a theory here. Somebody said,
it's more widely understood and recognized as a theory than even people still acknowledging that evolution is only a theory. Like, nothing has proved beyond certainty or knowledge that the evolutionary story is the story. It's a theory.
Right.
And the germ theory is significantly more of a theory. We have so much more proof that refutes the idea that germs make you sick.
Right. But there's something very deep in our culture, like very deep in our culture. That's oh, you're sick, I don't want to touch that. Or, oh, you're sick, let's stay away from each other.
Sanitizer, women walking around with sanitizer dangling from their purse.
Kids walking around with sanitizer all the time, hand sanitizer on their hand. And granted, that definitely exploded, during a certain era that shall not be named. But the idea, like, for a while, it was kind of like, oh, those people are just really afraid of germs. And like, you had germaphobes and you had like that kind of stuff. Yep. And then there was this pervasiveness in our culture where everybody was really seemingly bought into the idea. Walk into a room. You want to see a party trick? Do you want to see a party trick? Walk into a room and say, I don't buy into the germ theory of disease. I don't believe in the germ theory of disease. You might as well walk in and say, I'm going to start wearing pants on my head. Like, it's such a big, like, it is absolutely.
A small portion of the room might high five you, and then the rest of them are like, who's this? Where's the tinfoil?
What is going on? What are you even talking about right now? Like, it's such a far-fetched, right? And it's something that we're so into that we actually named our dogs. We got dogs.
We named them after the founders, or the people who founded the idea of the opposite theory, which is called the terrain theory. So.
Which we'll talk about a little bit, but those are dogs' names, right? Is because Bernard, we were like, hey, and what's interesting is that it sparked up a number of conversations at dog parks and different places. Like, why are your dogs named Bernard and Beauchamp? And we're like, oh, well, actually, that's a really funny story. And then it gave us sort of a launching pad into this conversation of the germ theory and the terrain theory and what really we're working with.
And I think one of the wreckers of the paradigm, very initially and very simply, is like. If anyone swallowed, a poison like anthrax or arsenic, like virtually 100% of the time, the reaction's negative, right? Like if you swallow bleach, negative reaction across the board. It's not like, some people, it's not like it's 60-40 or whatever. But when it comes to germs, the problem is if we really think germs are the cause, exposure would equal illness every time if it equaled illness any of the time. And we actually see the opposite. We actually see some people never get sick and some people always get sick, so to speak. So how can two people be exposed to the same virus? They're maybe live in the same house, eat the same food, potentially even sleep in the same bed, and one gets sick and the other doesn't, because if germs were the cause, the outcomes would be very consistent.
Yes, and I think that is one of the things. So we just ran into this at my son and daughter's school the other day. My son got sick. He was expressing symptoms of healing. He was not feeling well, not feeling great. He stayed home from school. And at my daughter's school, they pulled her aside and did a temperature check on her to say, oh, let's check and see how you're doing because you have exposure in your house. You don't understand what is going on if that's what you think, like if that's what you think how this works. If you think that that's how this works, then you really and if something in your gut is going, you're crazy, lady, what are you talking about when I say this? Hear us out on this because it is not.
Here's the point I want you to be thinking around. Let's reframe our mind around this and to set this up for what we're actually talking about. Because I know you're like, wait a minute. All right, I get it. Some people get sick, some people don't, but it's still germs. But I'm telling you, it's not germs. So the question isn't what did you come in contact with? What did you encounter? Were you around kids? Like I remember in the time that shall not be mentioned, we were flying home from Mexico and they're like, were you in contact with anyone from such and such country? And it's not about what you encountered. Rather the question is, what condition was your body in when you encountered the germ?
Right.
It's all about you and your terrain. The germ is the germ. They're everywhere. They're on doorknobs. There's more microbes, viruses, bacteria on the handle of the shopping cart than when they swabbed the bathroom floor of the bathroom in a grocery store. And so the reality is, if the germ theory, and this is a quote from B.J. Palmer, I love this so much when I finally understood the difference between germ and terrain theory. If the germ theory of disease were true, no one would be alive to believe it, because everyone would be dead, because the germs are everywhere. Germs that kill people and cause illness are everywhere. You're exposed to them literally every day.
Right.
And so if the theory was true that germs attack you and they hurt you, you'd be dead already. You wouldn't make it past your first birthday.
Yeah, so send this episode to your friend who accused you of getting them sick with the disease
During
that
COVID,
shall not be named.
But what really does happen is, yes, there is exposure, but when your body, the condition of your body's health dips below a certain point, then you become susceptible, but it has nothing to do with the germ and virtually everything to do with you and your resistance. So,
and you know that old quote when people say, oh, don't worry about what other people think, because nobody's thinking about you. They're only thinking about themselves. And there's a little bit of a negative connotation there, right? Is that everybody's just walking around thinking about themselves all the time. This is the one instance where I changed the lens a little bit on that. But this is the one instance when you get to know that it really is just all about you. It has nothing to do with anybody else in the world. It has nothing to do with their level of sickness, their things, their whatever. It really has everything to do with you and your body and the state of your immune system and your function and your health and your nervous system and your subluxations. And those are all of the things that really that's what matters.
So where this started, and I'll give a more eloquent example in a minute, but where this actually started was when they were observing rotting, decaying meat. And the general idea was you throw some meat in the garbage and, you don't dispose of it properly. You just kind of throw it in the garbage or throw it out in the yard or whatever. And pretty soon you see maggots on it and the meat begins to decay. And it was oh my gosh, maggots make meat decay and get foul and all this. And it's no, the maggots are attracted to decaying material. Right. So flies land on it and they eat because they are attracted to and they feed on decaying garbage. Right. And then they lay eggs and the maggots show up, whatever. But it wasn't the maggots were making the meat go bad. It's the meat was decaying and it attracted the maggots. So same way in the germ is not going after you. Your system gets weakened to the point where that germ starts to be able to feed on you and flourish. In this book, my friends have just written probably going to be one of the best books when it comes to reclaiming your health in 2026. It'll be coming out soon. It's called Reclaim Vitality. You guys should definitely check it out when it comes out. But it's by Nick and Leah Wilson. And the book uses an analogy that I really love where they talk about your body is a garden. And you can throw seeds anywhere. And the good book, the Bible, talks about this too. Not that this isn't a good book, but seeds only grow if the soil allows it. And germs are the seed, but your internal terrain is the soil. So if your internal terrain is allowing the germ to then flourish, healthy cells and germs feed on two different things. It's very similar to cancer, and healthy cells feed on two different things. So when your body is healthy, germs can't thrive. When your body is healthy, cancer can't thrive. When your body is healthy, viruses can't thrive. They still will make their way in, penetrate the barrier or whatever, but your body isolates them and literally neutralizes them, and you don't even know that you were exposed. And you might still get it, what we call the genetic upgrade from being exposed, but an asymptomatic one versus a symptomatic one.
Right. And listen, there's things that when you talk about that garden analogy, when you talk about that soil, there's things that allow soil. There's things that the soil allows to take root and to grow. And then there's times where you can't, where it doesn't. And so this is one of the things, your soil is actually influenced by things like stress, like sleep, like your nervous system tone, like nutrition, like your toxic load. It's also
emotional pressure, physical traumas, all of those things. And what we're saying is your terrain, like your body.
Yes.
It's either healthy or it's not. And if it's healthy, the germs don't dominate and overtake it. They just kind of pass through. You get the free upgrade from being exposed. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then, or they're neutralized. Like I said, they're defeated, but they're going to serve a purpose in some way, shape, or form. And really that purpose is the key to all of this.
Right. And you gotta kind of like imagine this as, what if you're like a major league catcher in a professional baseball game, and you walk out and you got no gloves and you got no outfit on and you got nothing, and you're in like a pair of flip-flops, and like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you aren't prepared. Like, you're not ready. You are not in the condition to be in the place that you're at. Right. And so, like, we're talking about a very similar deal here with the terrain. Like, your body is soil all of the time. You're making decisions every single day that's either putting your body in one direction or it's putting it in the other. And there are times where, if you know you're not taking care of your body, and this is probably like one of those holiday, like, why do so many people get sick around the holidays? Oh, you're eating a ton of junk. You're missing your chiropractic appointments because you got this party and this play and this like whatever. And you're stressed out because you're seeing, your weird family members that you don't want to see, or family members that you actually really, really love, but you are stressed because you're
travel,
like,
changing time zones.
Yes, travel, changing time boards, like all these things. And you realize that the soil is not in the condition, right? And so this idea, you're not wearing the right outfit, like you're not suited up in your catcher's outfit, like all of those analogies all apply here. And your body, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, the summation of everything always is you got to take care of yourself, and you're responsible for it. That's the summation.
So number one, I think we went through. It's not just the bug, it's your body. And I think most people, once they start getting into this, they're like, okay, I'll agree with that. But the germ matters, right? The germ still is part of it. Like, sure, if I'm healthier, but germs are actually what make you sick. And the answer is no. This part really flips everything upside down, is viruses are not invaders. Viruses don't have their own metabolism. They're very different than you and I. They don't move, they don't hunt. They activate inside of already compromised cells. So in order for a virus to become active, it has to be attached to a cell, and the cell that virus is attached to are always damaged and weakened cells. So they require your damaged, weakened cells as vehicles. And what happens is they activate inside of these compromised and weakened cells, which means they're responding to something that is already wrong. I got sick. You didn't get sick. You are sick. And the viruses are now allowing the expression of that. But there's actually a positive thing here to some degree when it comes to why they're attaching to your cells.
Okay, can I just say this? Because when you say this idea that viruses are not invaders, all I can see are those commercials where they like make a germ or like a virus, and it like looks like it's an attack guy,
like a monster.
Yeah, like it looks like it's a monster, and it looks like it's like coming to invade you and like go to war with you. So like I have this visual in my mind.
Yeah, because we've been programmed. We've been programmed through pharmaceutical ads, through, I mean, every single fall. It's like, the pharmaceutical companies say, hey, we're going to buy X amount of billions of dollars worth of media space, but what we want you to do is run these 12 stories over the next 12 weeks and scare the crap out of everybody when it comes to flu shots. So what do you hear? It's not just the ads. The ads happen to parallel with it, but then you're hearing news stories of like, oh, the flu is going to be really bad this winter. Says who? Says AstraZeneca, and that fed you that story through the Associated Press. Do you guys realize it's a campaign, and it's a campaign coming at you? And if you want to say it, just follow the money. Look who makes money every year, hand over fist. And if you look at flu numbers, and are they down that year or up that year? Largely, they don't like change dramatically. In fact, some of the years that are the worst is when we had the hardest efforts towards getting more people vaccinated. So this idea flips everything upside down. And so what I want you to realize is when that virus attaches to that compromised cell, it actually is like a cleanup signal that in this book they're talking about, Nick and Leah are talking about how viruses, they compared them to scavengers, that they show up when tissue is stressed or toxic or it's breaking down. And that this explains something that medicine doesn't really explain well, and that's why symptoms show up after stress, after burnout, after emotional overload, after toxic exposure, after drinking too much alcohol, after going to the parties and eating things that you don't typically eat. It's not just after exposure. That typically it's after these other things, because the exposure alone, if you just had the exposure, which you do literally every day, and when I say literally every day, it's not like, oh, it was a party and Joe was sick. You go to the grocery store that 4,000 people go through, and guess what percentage of them are actively expressing symptoms and are sick? Right. You're exposed every day, way beyond you. It wasn't like Joe's fault at the party because, he drank out of your cup by accident when you weren't looking. So number 3 here is that symptoms are intelligence. They're not failure. And this is the one I was teaching my staff this week, is that your symptoms are actually a sign that your body's responding. So you have beat up your body enough to where your resistance is down. There are cells actually being damaged. Viruses are coming in to activate cleanup signal protocols. And then the biggest part is understanding that your symptoms are actually the right thing at the right time to then clean up your body. So fever isn't failure. Congestion isn't failure. Fatigue isn't failure. They're responses. And they're responses by what? Your own innate intelligence.
And dare we say they're a healthy response?
No, they're absolutely healthy because your body is doing it. That is not a symptom of the sickness. That is a symptom of the recovery and the cleanup response in your body trying to get back on track. Fevers speed up immune reactions. They do. They spike temperatures and they help kill the damaged cells, and the healthy cells thrive. Mucus traps waste. So mucus literally traps things so you can cough it up and snot it out. Fatigue forces rest. People are like, oh, he's got a fever and he's so tired. It's like, yeah. I mean, apart from like when you're laying there and you're just like, oh, like I just want to sleep. I don't. Like most of the time when you have a fever and you're feeling lousy, the fever itself doesn't hurt. The fatigue doesn't hurt. You just want to sleep. And so that's what you should do, is sleep. Your body's not breaking down.
Right.
It's pushing things out.
Right. And so track with me on this one, that when we suppress those symptoms, instead of asking why are they happening and letting them happen, letting the body do the work that it needs to and supporting it in the best way possible, then we interrupt the process. Think right now, imagine right now in your mind how many times you have seen an ad that says, Mucinex, destroy the mucus.
Mucinex, yeah.
What, is that what it's called? Mucinex. I forgot how to say it right.
Get the mucus out.
Get the mucus out. Where is it going? What are we doing with the mucus? What's happening to it? Why are we getting rid of it?
And it doesn't come out in most cases. You break it up into smaller particles and it ends up deeper into your lungs and deeper into something. And next thing you know, you have pneumonia. So even the thing that they're selling you isn't accurate.
Right. So every time you want to say, like, I don't want this X, Y, and Z anymore, that your body's doing to help you get to the place where you need to go, when your body's actively expressing healing. Try and do that. Try laying in bed when you're at the peak of not feeling well, right? Of the peak of like when your body's working against the thing, right? And you're at the peak of lethargy and coughing and, whatever it is. And instead of saying, I'm sick, say my body's healthy.
My body's fighting this off. Like, look at how intense these symptoms are. Look how amazing my body is. That I personally let my exposure get low. I was fatigued. I was not eating what I should have been. I wasn't doing this. And then now nature and my innate intelligence have decided they're going to take over. They're like, hey, you're being an idiot. We got it from here. We're going to shut everything down. We're going to spike the fever up. We're going to clean up the mess that you've created.
Right.
And thank God for the signaling from the environment, that the environment via a virus or a bug said, dude, you're kind of weak. Like I could take you out. Yes. And then your body got signaled by this, it's like I don't know. It's like the equivalent of a mosquito bite. Like you're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your body, like you can get bit like West Nile virus even, like literally a mosquito bite. You're not going to die of West Nile virus if you're a healthy person. Like that's just not how it works. Right. This tiny little mosquito bite introduces a virus. And when your body is weak, when your immune system is suppressed, then next thing you know, you got this whole thing. So literally the environment is trying to signal to your body like, hey dude, you're weak. And so your body says, can't trust Ryan anymore. Right. I'm going to shut everything down. I'm going to make mucus. Decisions. This guy's making bad decisions. I'm going to make mucus. I'm going to spike his fever. I'm taking over this innate intelligence that God placed in your body. So now the God power takes over and says, Ryan can't be trusted. We're going to turn this system up. And if you interfere with that, your body's response becomes weaker. It becomes slower. It becomes chaotic because the nervous system is this communication pathway that's controlling this. And the body's not dumb. It's intelligent, but the signals can get distorted. And so what do we do when we're not feeling well or we're sick or whatever you want to call it? We don't call it sick because sick is a mindset. And we don't believe like in sick. We believe everything is working towards health and your body's always trying to survive and thrive, and that God placed intelligence inside the body, and that yes, external forces want to break us down, but internal forces, enthalpy versus entropy, that this idea that from inside out, it's always living, and from outside in, it's always trying to break you down. And that's the balance. And it was created that way. So we just we don't believe in sick. So when you're feeling like that, what do? You just do what you should have been doing in the first place. If you get adjusted by a chiropractor, which you should, you get adjusted more. If you take supplements, take a little bit more. If you eat healthy normally, eat more healthy. Or better yet, sometimes don't eat. Right. Fast and give your body a break. If you sleep more. Like go in and lean, but don't go the other way. Like less alcohol, less fast food, less stress, less, like you have to like look for those areas that created the exposure in the first place. Right.
Which is why, like, so there's some times where I'm like, oh, God bless America. Like this person needs some help. Like when a kid isn't feeling well or something going wrong and somebody's like, oh, go grab them name it, like fast food item or
get him a popsicle.
Ice cream, give him a popsicle, give him a Sprite for electrolytes. I'm like, what is the Sprite for electrolytes thing? Where did that come from? I remember hearing that when I was little. I have no clue where that came from, but absolutely not. Absolutely. The amount of sugar inside of that is like, no. So what, yes, what are the things? And then what is the system? How does chiropractic fit into this? What is the system that controls and coordinates every single thing in your body?
Yep. The nervous system. The nervous system is what regulates all of this. So if you want to fight something off, you want a well-regulated response. So chiropractor is like, I used to use the Army. It's a general of the Army, right? Like you want that, you don't want an uncoordinated attack or response against this.
And who are the doctors that help you regulate your nervous system?
Chiropractors. Right. You ready for this one? Because this is the next one. And then people go to isolation. I'm going to stay home. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't stay home. You should stay home because you should sleep. You should rest. Right. You should eat food from home, not food from out. You should minimize your stress. Typically, that means like stay at home, read a book, do whatever. Yeah. You're staying home to recover. You're not staying home to isolate. Right. Isolation. We got a call from our kids' school. Too many kids are sick. We're canceling school so nobody else gets sick. What are they talking about? Isolating. Right. We don't know who's got it and who doesn't. So we're going to like make everyone go home.
Yeah.
One of the most fascinating, things when it comes to isolation is true isolation doesn't build immunity. It actually weakens it, that you're stronger because of exposure. The immune system actually learns through interaction. Yep. And so through exposure, through the challenge, through the adaptation, not through avoidance. You can't live in a bubble. In fact, if you lived in a bubble, you would never be able to be around people because they're getting system upgrades via viruses. Their immune systems are learning. And that's really what this is that as you grow, why do we start off crawling? This is how intelligent God's design is. Why do you start off as a kid crawling on the floor? So that you're closer to dust, germs, bugs, etc. Why do kids pick up everything and put it immediately into their mouth? So that they create exposure. The whole idea is in the first several months of your life, you're supposed to be getting lots of system upgrades, yes. lots of new information. And then at the same time, you're nursing off your mother's breast milk. Your mother's breast milk is sharing her immunity with you, but you haven't developed your own immunity yet. Your immune system is not getting stronger because of her breast milk. You're just borrowing her immunity via that breast milk and all the white blood cells and all the stuff in it. But you have to build your immunity. So the colostrum, the breast milk, is protection while you're crawling around the floor, putting everything in your mouth and hopefully not sticking your fingers in light sockets. Yeah. And everything. But the reality is you start off on the floor, and then as you grow, you start having more exposure. And same thing, like kids, it's, like you'll see kids in the car and like they'll be picking their nose. Next thing you know, they're touching their sibling's face, and they haven't acquired social norms yet. Why? Because they're sharing exposure, because that's actually how the upgrades come. And so it was designed so perfectly to actually be this idea that immunity is something that's built, and you're each time, and I know it feels lousy, but the research is clear that the more colds and flus somebody has in a lifetime earlier on, that they don't take antibiotics, that they don't treat it with Tamiflu, that they don't, use Benadryl or whatever, the more colds and flus that somebody has at a younger age, the less likely they develop cancer and autoimmune diseases and other serious things later on in life. So you want kids that are constantly having immune responses. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, we want to make sure. Now, you're like, well, my kids are always sick. There's a difference between constantly being exposed and having a well-coordinated, quick immune response versus the kids that are like perpetually goopy eyes and runny nose and whatever. That is a kid whose lifestyle doesn't match their exposure. Their exposure might be high, but their lifestyle is creating weakness. So those kids have never been adjusted by a chiropractor. They were born maybe C-section, maybe not, but they have massive subluxations in their upper neck. They're drinking juice every day, juice, like loaded with sugar. I don't understand this thing where parents think they have to give their kid juice every day, but the same parent might be drinking Diet Coke every day. Yeah. So I feel like, oh, they got to have something. No, your kids drink water. And maybe some, organic milk every now and then, but water pretty much is what our kids drink. Outside of that, what are they eating? Are you loading them up on grains and stuff like that? Like if it would make your blood sugar spike and make you gain 30 pounds, why are you feeding it to your kids for breakfast? Breakfast cereal is 100% no go. Like, and these are the things that help to build the body so that when they are met with that exposure, it's very different. So, what does this mean for modern health? Cause like we're so far from what's, like, that's why I said this episode might be like, whoa.
Right. And I think a big point here is that health isn't about hiding from the world.
Not at all.
And I think that's
exactly really, the opposite. I touched so many, and this is going to sound weird, but I'm a chiropractor, so you get what I'm saying. Yeah. I touched so many people through COVID. Right. Like if they're like super spreaders, I would have been like the ultra spreader. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the prize is for it, or like, but I touched hundreds of people every week for 2021. Right. Like hundreds of people every single week.
Yeah. And really, it's about strengthening your own capacity to handle your interaction with the world. Right? Because the world, like the world is what it is. Like when you go outside, it is what it is. Like your exposure to germs are what they are.
And this is where I'll put my chiropractic hat on, because chiropractic fits perfectly with this. It's not symptom management. Right. And this is where it goes from being something, sometimes I'll say when you have this philosophy on life, it's so freeing. Forget freeing. It arms you. Because your nervous system optimization is about your body being stronger than anything you come up against. People came into my office this week. They're like, oh, and this is actually true. Everyone in my household expressed symptoms this past week. They were exposed. Well, what happened? We, even the healthy family, were at an event where we didn't have our own food there. Right. It was over Christmas. Nothing's open, so it's hotel food. Yeah. Kids being kids are sneaking food they normally wouldn't get. Yeah. They're staying up later than they would normally stay up. Yeah. All the practices, we were literally living in a hotel. So for a couple days, well, everyone comes down with symptoms. Yeah. And do we freak out? No. It was like, duh.
Yeah,
Like we just did. So what did they do? They all get it. So this idea, now I will say this, and I'm not trying to toot a horn, but I knew I had to go back to work.
Toot it away.
I did not go to bed late.
That's right.
A single night.
Yeah, you did not.
I, even though it was hotel food, ate exclusively meat and vegetables. That was it.
Yep.
Literally. I did not partake in any sweets or anything like that. Yep. And I am the only one at this point that didn't express any symptoms and was able to get past it, but it was not without intention. Yeah. And then the weird part was I was around and exposed to as much or more people than anybody, because on Sunday morning I adjusted like 50 people in the hotel lobby, most of whom weren't feeling good from the whole weekend. So by contact, I should have been, patient, whatever.
Anybody walking into that hotel lobby would have been like, why is there a chiropractic office open right now and 50 people getting adjusted?
But one of my favorite things, like patients will come to me and they're like, it's going around. And I'm like, not in this body. Not in this body. It can go around, but it's not touching this. And the funny thing is, people, when I am not feeling well, people go like, I thought you never get sick. And I'm like, when I'm doing things right, I was an idiot last week. And here's why. I'm not feeling well. Okay.
And you know what I just thought of, which is really funny. In the hotel lobby, while you're adjusting people, a totally different patients from in the city that we're from walk through the lobby and
from 2 hours away.
See you adjusting people and get in line and get adjusted too.
Yeah, somebody from great. 2 hours away who was not affiliated with what we were there for, happened to walk through the hotel lobby. Was like, Dr. Ryan? Yeah, they're like, can I get adjusted? I'm like,
can I get
absolutely.
Get in line.
In closing, I would say this. If germs were the enemy, we said this, humanity would cease to exist. We wouldn't have made it this far. Health is not about avoidance. It's about alignment. And when we say alignment, we mean alignment with what's true, what's right, what we know to be true about our bodies. And your body's not fragile. And this is where it becomes empowering. As a chiropractor, I'll say, you should eat well. You should exercise. You should avoid, largely in the United States, you shouldn't eat bread, really. You shouldn't, there's certain things like grains. You just shouldn't, especially in the United States. Alcohol, it's something that we should largely avoid, these things. But I will tell you this, chiropractic care is the single thing, if you had to ask me, what would I do for my family? What would I choose? What would I pick above anything else? Chiropractic, because I've seen people who ate horribly and they get adjusted and they still heal. I've seen people who eat, all the perfect stuff and exercise, whatever. And, I have an uncle that died of liver cancer in his 50s, and he was the healthiest person I knew by lifestyle. He, bar one thing, he never had been under regular chiropractic care. And so if you ask me, what is the one thing? The one thing is chiropractic. And that's not philosophy. That's biology, that your anatomy and your biology require your nervous system controlling everything. And then lastly then it's about what we do every single day. So what are you doing? If this episode has made you think about this, or if it's created some, challenge for you, is how you think about, sickness or illness, immunity, how you run your own health, what you do. Like, oh, you mean I don't run out and get an antibiotic every time? I mean, you almost be like, the goal is you never, ever, ever again go get an antibiotic. And that curiosity that you might be having right now, that matters. So your nervous system is either supporting that, or your spine is interfering with it if you're subluxated. And if you want help with that, we want to help you. So if any of that applies to you, also share this with a friend. I was just talking about a series that somebody I really respected on vaccines, and I was saying, just listen to that series to a friend the other day. You have children, you're about to have children. Listen to that series. It will arm you and prepare you, and it'll make you feel confident in this decision you're about to make when everyone else, the doctors and nurses, are going to come at you with information, most of it not true. Right. Most of it's bad information, or we call it BS, like bad belief systems. Yeah. But I just told him, listen to that thing on vaccines. The same way I would tell you this episode, send it to your friend who carries sanitizer on their purse. Send it to your friend that's squirting sanitizer in their hands. Send it to your friend who's like, the kids are sick. Do you mind, not having your kids around my kids? Because like it's just bad, and they're buying into a lie, and that lie is not freeing, and that lie is not supportive to truth. And if it's not, then it's creating damage, because the truth goes out, it doesn't return void, it creates life from it. But lies create damage. They hurt relationships, they hurt people's future health, they hurt your kids' belief in their own health and their own body for the future. So just hope you got a lot out of this, and share it with someone who might also get a lot out of it.